Hi, this is Joshua Cartwright, co-manager of Stanmore Library, and this is video number 4 on how to publish your own book. This one is about how to proofread, edit, and format your book. And I'd like to say that if you can at all avoid it, don't do it yourself. It's much better to have someone who has a fresh eye to look at your book. I review a lot of children's books, and it's painful to see a beautifully constructed book where the author lacks on their punctuation or their spelling unless it's deliberate. It's just, not everybody is bothered, but I'm bothered, and the book could be a lot better with it. But let's talk about what proofreaders do. Proofreaders will read through your manuscript. They can read through for punctuation and grammar and spelling, and to some extent, they can also do what an editor does. They can read through to find out whether it makes sense, whether you've got any loose ends as well. When I do a read through, I try and separate those parts of myself. So when I read through for spelling and punctuation, that is all that I'm after, just to correct those kind of mistakes. And when I read through for sense, I'm trying to figure out if everything lines up. For example, if you're doing a mystery story, unless you deliberately want to leave a loose end, you need someone to read through it and tell you that it's all wrapped up. If you have a friend who's good at punctuation, it's fine for them to do this. You don't have to hire a professional for that bit. My advice is don't give them the original manuscript. If it's paper, make photocopies. Yes, there's an additional cost, but especially if you give someone a word processing document and then they make loads of changes and you don't like the changes and then you can't remember what changes they made. So you can put on something called track changes. You can find out on Google how to do this, but essentially it highlights all changes made to the document in red. If you're getting to someone to do a read through to make sense of it, you've got to ask yourself again, what does your readership expect to understand? If you're writing a book on your own family history, it's not going to go outside your family. Then, nobody needs to understand, Uncle Ronald's in jokes or, Auntie Ethel's bad habit that everybody knows about because you guys all know about it. But if you are expecting an external audience to read it, you do need someone to read through and actually point out, I didn't understand this or that wasn't clear. It's a good idea to make it clear what you're asking for. You want punctuation and spelling looked at. Does it make sense? Please highlight where it doesn't. I strongly suggest you do not ask your friends and family at this point if your manuscript is any good, because they will probably say yes. And you remember those people on American Idol whose families have told them that they're excellent at singing, and then they go on TV and get embarrassed in front of millions of people. In my opinion, if you are writing a book for profit, then the people who judge whether it's good are those who actually buy it and read it. And if you're on Amazon, they leave a comment. It's your decision how you evaluate it. But for me, much as I love my family and they are fairly blunt, I do prefer to have the comments of people who have never read it before as my satisfaction. In terms of editing, I've never hired a professional editor. A lot of my books are short enough to be read by people I trust who can point things out. But you do need to decide whether you're going to allow the person to make any changes or not. If you are writing a specialist book, then it's actually quite a good idea to have a specialist read it. I have co-written a book in Creole, which is Guyana's sort of unofficial national language, and I've had people who speak Creole read through it and correct where it sounds too much like British English. Also, I wrote a book set in the 1st century, and I was very fortunate to have a professor read through the first few chapters and just point things out. Like in this particular scene, you've got 2 women walking in front of a man, who is the husband of one of them. That probably wouldn't have happened in this particular scenario. So it's good to have an expert read through. It is a bit nail biting. It is, especially when you write something new. But it's necessary and very useful. Now, last but not least, formatting. Now, formatting is essentially the process of making your book look nice. And I'm going to assume that we're talking about standard fiction books here that don't need all kinds of incredibly fancy writing all around like children's books. You can download free book templates from the internet. I'm going to put a link to one at the end of this document, and that will help you a lot because it takes care of margins and it takes care of the space on the page and forces your writing to stay neat. You can hire a formatter from fiverr.com. Again, I'll put the note at the end. And I've mostly found them to be very good and quite reasonably priced. You can also hire cover designers, and I will talk about that on the next video. There's a lot more to be said. For example, if you're creating an ebook, you're going to have to use hyperlinks. Now, this sounds fancy, but it essentially means that people can press a button or press a link on your table of contents and jump straight to a chapter in the book. If you want to know more about that, then go to Google and type in how to use bookmarks and hyperlinks on Word. It's not difficult, but I can't really demonstrate it here. So I hope you're enjoying this series. I hope you're finding it useful. And, let us know if you publish something, bring it into the library. You never know. We may possibly be able to keep a copy in stock or offer you some promotional opportunities. Thank you very much.